that. So we re-quoted it based on that spec so that we would be on a level playing field. And we came in with a number. The bottom line number on the difference in the second quotes was $9,475. So Pat Pay was $9,475 under us. The first quote was public. The John Deere quote was published publicly. So it wasn't until that point that I read the specs and discovered the differences in the specifications. And that's why we came back in with a revised quote, and we stuck to that quote, even on the second round. They didn't. What we're very, very concerned with is they did not list their list price. We were asked to do all that and then show the 30% CMS discount. That's nowhere on their quote. I don't know how they're coming to that number. What I'm concerned with is how can you bid $332,000 and then come back and discount it $11,168, adding the new warranty, revised warranty on the second quote would cost them a lot more. It would cost me a lot more. So we were looking at seeing how they come up with this number, and I don't know how they did. You know, they put no brand tires, so let's say $9,000. So they're coming back, they had to add $9,000 to their price, to the original price. So that's where I'm concerned with how CMS, I mean, is it qualifying for that? I mean, do you see where I'm coming from with that? I mean, how can they come back on a second bid and bid $11,000 less and give you a lot more product?
Well,
I believe that the commission, you know, they can take off their commission to sell us a machine if they choose to.
It doesn't, that's not how it works. You have to give your list price and you have to give a 30% discount. That's the CMS contract, either with me or John Deere. I mean, we've got to play by the same rules.
I think we confirmed that it was their CMS price.
yes.
Yeah,
We were confirmed that it was their list price or their CMS. They cut in other areas.
It's not listed in their quote that they published publicly here.
And the other thing I think we need to bring up, again, this is CMAS. It's not a formal bidding process. We're allowed to buy off the CMAS. We don't even have to. We can choose one vendor and just go with that off the CMAS. We don't have to be looking for low cost providers.
What's the pleasure of the board? I was thinking John Deere. I'm happy. Larry and this crew come up with, and we bid it. 20.
The last grader we bought was how long ago, Jim?
47 years ago.
It was a Caterpillar.
It was a Caterpillar.
Yeah.
That wasn't the last grader we bought.
The one that we're replacing.
One we're replacing
Yeah.
is coming up in 25 years.
And this one will probably last 47 years too. You'll won't be dead and gone.
They're both good machines. You can't compare a 12F to a new style motor grader. They're worlds apart.
Okay.
So my concern is so we have this thing 20 years, are we still going to have a cat repair person in this county in 20 years?
Sure. Yeah. We have a contract with Caterpillar for all of Lassen and Plymouth County, and our counties of Nevada.
Well, my experience in my stores, when I have to bring technicians in, it costs a fortune.
Right, but I guess that could be John Deere too. We're going to have a John Deere mechanic.
That's why I asked that question.
John Deere or a cat, either way, I don't think.
Well, the John Deere guy comes from.
Currently, or
Yeah.
20 years from now?
Currently.
Currently, I believe Ready.
Cashman is.
There's
Yeah, well,
There's any real way to predict how that will shake out.
Yeah, I know that.
I would be careful of commitments to provide service 20 years out.
No, but I was just,
Regardless of who the vendor is.
Okay, all right, the chair would entertain a motion of some sort.
I'll make the motion we award the bid to Pappy Machinery Rating California amount of $321,625.02 for the purchase of one new John Deere 672G 6-wheel drive motor.
I have a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second.
And I just want to say, and this is in reference to the gentleman in the audience, I understand the consternations you have about the process and so forth, but how one can do it and the other is, it appears to me that they went back and sharpened their pencil even more so, knowing all the controversies that were there and knowing where the concern was. So they obviously wanted our business more so than your company did at this point in time. So that's the, we're not hostages to the private sector in many respects. So we rely upon, and sometimes people criticize government, and government to the most part is low bid. I mean, when the shuttle blows up, it's done by low bid, and sometimes that's the nature, the risk that you take. And in this particular case, we have two, I think, viable options and two viable bids, and we're going with the lowest bid and get these folks. Hopefully next time, you guys can sharpen the pencil and edge them out. And they've been edged out in the past because over the last, I don't know how many years, we've bought a heck of a lot of Caterpillar equipment. And Cashman in Reno has gotten a huge amount of business from this county. So it's not a question of being discriminated against. If anything, I think you guys have done very well, and we appreciate the service you've provided us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We've been doing business with Lassen County since the early 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And, we appreciate that, and Nick and Bob and everybody.
But
They've done a great job
anyway,
supporting it.
I'm supportive of this, bid because it's a valid bid. It's basically $10,000 less for good equipment.
Okay, any more questions? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All say no. Ayes down.
Hold that.
Pull the board?
Yeah.
Pull the board. Pull the board.
Okay. Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Hall?
Aye.
Supervisor Nichol?
No.
Supervisor Newman?
no,
Chairman Pyle?
All right. Motion passed.
We ever had a 3-2 vote on a GE CAT scan machine for the hospital. It was the same arguments that we're having right now. That was back in
Thank you, sir, for your comments. We
1977.
appreciate it. We're going to move on to your H5.
I need to excuse myself on this one.
Come back at 2:30. Okay, Larry, H5.
Okay, here we have a bid award for a bridge paving maintenance project. What it is treating 4 of our concrete bridge decks with a sealer. We went out for formal bidding procedures. We received 3 bids. QD Construction out of Sparks, $155,000. Truesdale Corporation out of Arizona, $158,158. American Civil Constructors out of Anisha, for $254,077.50. We looked through all these bids; they're all good, responsive bids, and therefore we recommend that we award the bid to Q&E Construction, low bidder, in the amount of $155,000.
Okay, Council, why didn't you answer this qualifying?
He announced that his own personal land, there's one of these bridges.
Baxter
is,
Creek Bridge 7C73 is on Hinkle Road.
Correct.
But it's still in the public interest.
Yes, but out of an abundance of caution, he felt compelled to step away.
So if they pay Brixton Road, I have to step up here to go to maybe to my home.
Well, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
They're concrete.
Bob, that means no bridge for you.
No bridge for me, okay. All right, any other questions on this item? Seeing none, no questions from the public, we're going to vote.
Before we do, I just want to say,
You're going to make a motion, I guess.
before we do though, is I know Mr. Hinkle isn't here, and it's a good thing maybe you did one on Hinkle Road, so he had to leave. but there again, we had 3 bids, and we just have a summary sheet. And I think that it's interesting that he didn't raise an issue about that, but I think maybe, Richard, in the future, when we have agenda items where we're having bids, it might be best to have the documentation of this. We don't see things being delayed. I mean,
We discussed that. In the case of some of these bids, they are voluminous when they do.
well, maybe what you might do is have one copy of the bids available that can even be passed around on something voluminous. That way, if it's just 1 or 2 sheets, include it. But that way, there we have it in the room, and we don't see this thing being delayed. I'm not going to delay it because I'm satisfied with the staff's recommendation.
Before you vote, I guess a bigger motion. The chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to award the bridge ceiling job to QB Construction for
Well,
$155,000.
we could make a motion and leave the Baxter Creek Bridge out.
I think we got the motion. You got a second?
Second.
We got a motion. And
I
a
think he'd
second.
rather excuse himself.
Any more discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
I
Both say no. The ayes have it with Mr. Yanko excusing himself. Thank you, Larry. Thank you.
I'll ask you to excuse myself.
Page
My
6,
turn.
County Administrative Office, Richard, is that you?
Yes.
Yeah, wait. I'm excusing myself.
Agenda is on the regular agenda to give Supervisor Hammond an opportunity to excuse himself because he owns property in close proximity to the Family Resource Center. We received a request from the Family Resource Center, which is attached to the memo, for some funds to help with their library project. It's my recommendation that the board make this expenditure, if they're so inclined to do so, out of the supervisor's discretion.
Have a good supervisor.
How much is it?
$700.
$700.
The line item that the supervisor's discretionary funding is expended from is just one line item, $25,000. By custom, you all have divided them up. You know,
Well, we could easily vote and take it out of Tom's.
yeah, he's not here, so that's easy.
Don't use his.
So,
I'll make that motion.
okay.
Be careful for the meeting you're not at.
Yeah.
I'll second Jeff's motion that out of, I know Tom would have no problem having his funds used that way, but it's really the board's funds, not Tom's funds.
Correct. I think that's the point.
All right, we'll take care of this for him. I love it.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, he made the motion, I seconded it.
Motion to second. Any more discussion? Mrs. Spencer?
Did you just say that, that you can use each other's money? I mean, I've never seen where it's divided evenly. It's always been that way. But are you saying now that you can take all of the, if there's no funds left and the only funds left was Supervisor Hempel, you can use it?
Yes.
Yes, good.
That's what you
If
can.
we have a true vote, we have a vote of the board.
Okay.
Black it out.
First of all, it's not the individual supervisor's personal money. It's the board's discretionary money, and we, as convention,
That's what I just said.
Each other.
That's what I just said. In the past, you've always divided it evenly. Thank
The
you.
answer is yes, we could. Okay. So you got a motion in a second?
Yeah.
That was questions from the public, and that's answered. Seeing no more, all in favor, say aye. All say no, the ayes have it. Thank you.
And I'd like to say thank you very much.
You can say thank you.
I did.
And let me go get Mr. Hammond.
So Mr. Hammond, we're to now, we're down to number 7, Lake Valley Recreation Authority.
Yes, Mr. I guess I'll wait for Supervisor Hammond.
They unanimously voted to take it out of your salary.
Good.
If there's enough.
I can always borrow it from you.
So, Supervisor Chapman knows well that the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority has proposed changes to the Joint Powers Authority agreement, primarily to deal with the funding of the proposed swimming pool, which would now include reduced annual contribution, but an increased one-time contribution of the 1.1 million. And this is notice of that proposed amendment. That amendment will come back to the JPA after 30 days, and I don't know if they've specified a date.
Yeah, it's October 6th.
Is that October 6th? Okay. So there are a few other what I would call non-substantive changes in the or clarification of the existing agreement. I can go through each of those if you'd like, or we can dispense with that.
Well, before we do that, just on the money part, initially when this thing was conceived and put together, when we were going to, the two agencies, the city and the county, were going to put X number of dollars in the pot, and the authority would then use those monies to go out and build the pool and operate the pool. And it was projected that roughly half the money, or $3 million, would be available for the construction site, and $3 million would be available for the operating site for the time of the JPA. And the theory being is that the JPA on its own could just go, and that was one option it had, but the interest rates are so horrendous for a new agency with no track record and no assets. And so that was, one thing they could just sit there and keep accumulating, and maybe in 6-7 years get enough money to be able to build something. But at that time, the time was lost, and so the other option was to come back to the respective parent agencies and have them act on our behalf or leverage and borrow money, which now both agencies had agreed to do, and both agencies have completed and have that money now available. But if they're going to do that, the agreement, can't stay at the $200,000. So what county administration, city administration has done is they've calculated what the financing cost basically represents out of that $200,000 allocation, and that's the money that's being backed out, and because that's already being provided for up front through the direct contribution for construction, leaving the balance, which is $80,000, which will be the operating portion of the $200,000 allocation. But in order for that to happen, we need to basically change the JPA to reflect that emerging reality. And so that's the main stimulus behind this recommendation to come back and amend. And I think it gets the job done, allows us to build a pool, and it will give the support funding that was anticipated to operate at least for the next 13 years.
One other point I'd like to make is that I had initially planned to delay the county's contribution of the $1.1 million until this document was fully approved by the Honey Lake Valley Authority and comes back to the board for ratification. I still plan on doing that unless there's some need to do it sooner because we don't have the agreement in place. The city has dumped in our lap last Friday their money, and it is now in the fund of the Honey Lake Valley Authority. So if there are concerns about doing that, I'll address that, but I think the safest way is to just wait until...
The next allocations aren't going to be due until July of next year, which would be the $80,000 payment. So whether you do, before this is all ratified and completed, whether you transfer the money or not is immaterial. They will be, the JPA will be entertaining its design bill. They're in the midst of that RFP process now, and that won't be probably come to a conclusion until around the 1st of November. But by 1st of November, that's when the money is going to, in essence, needs to be there to be able to award a contract, if indeed they have a contract available to award. So, I mean, my attitude is you can sit on it, or you can transfer it. I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's going to sit in that fund and it become available. The city's already transferred their share, so, it's, if we don't build a pool, then the money's get transferred back, so it's not a big deal. But what's important is that we have to have this completed before June of next year, so that the next round of contributions need to be based on this new figure.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions on the city of Susanville letterhead. On the last one, section 9.2A and B. There in the S, you talked about that down towards one of the last sentences, and $80,000 for the remaining 16/17-28/19 fiscal years. What
It should be 29.
28, 29, typo.
That's a typo.
That's my error, I'm sorry.
No, it's on the city's letter.
It's on the city.
Let's blame it on Jared. He's not here.
Basically, it's the fiscal year 2028-29.
that's what,
That's the conclusion of the 15-year time period.
Or else they can get that back to the board.
we got that. And then on the last page, Richard, in section 9.2.B, to omit that sentence. And I think we maybe just omit the word annual from the sentence. So if a member fails to make a payment, the auditor shall authorize and withhold the payment from the member's property tax allocation, because you're still going to have that last $80,000.
Right, the point of deleting that is that there's no legal authority for the auditor to do that.
Yeah, we were, the legal beagle ruled that it's a non-operative.
Legal beagle.
Legal beagle.
So, Bob, legal to go?
You know, they basically, the auditor, from the get-go, had indicated that, so that was put in by an attorney that wrote up, whoever did it for the city, the attorney that we were using, and it was determined afterwards that that was something that was not enforceable. So we decided, why even have that in there to provoke a fight, you know? So we recommend we're cleaning up by just taking it out there altogether.
Okay.
Those are only two comments or questions.
Okay, so the purpose of this is just to notify the board that the changes are being proposed and are going to be considered at a meeting in October at the JPA
And
level.
the way the JPA was set up with the amendment process is that we had to take and make a proposed amendment, take an action, which we did, and then that action is to notify the two parent agencies of what that action is going to be. So there's like a 30-day, kind of like a waiting period to give either agency an opportunity to feedback changes such as that, you know, leave something taken out. And then once that 30-day clock is run, then we can take an action to amend it, recommend amendment, because the actual amendment has to come back to this body. We don't have the power to amend the JPA as a JPA. So we would recommend back to the City Council and the Board of Supervisors to amend the document that is a document between the two of them. And then sometime in October, we'll see this in a revised form to adopt, based on the recommendation of the JPA.
It's just information, there's no action required.
Unless we want to recommend that they change what they're doing, but I would say that's not what we want.
Okay, we take no action then.
Okay.
We move on to number 8.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we just talked about the pool. Like I mentioned, the city funds are now in the county treasury along with the county funds, so everything's moving swiftly forward with that. Supervisor Chapman mentioned the negative bailout language that was included in SB 107, hopefully to be signed by the governor soon. We're still evaluating the fiscal impact of that in the county budget, but we expect it to be positive. It's just a matter of how positive that is. The auditor and I have some debate over that. I have prepared a press release regarding the federal payment in lieu of taxes, along with 29 other counties in California. We're doing kind of a awareness campaign of the importance of the bill to these counties, and I'll be getting that press release to the
You ought to
newspaper.
send that down to Lake County, they might be.
With the 2950 Riverside building purchase, we had a slight setback over the last 2 weeks where our inspection revealed that at least parts of the roof were not installed correctly, requiring remediation. The seller made what I would call a feeble attempt to make those repairs that was not satisfactory to our inspectors or myself. And so the inspector that we had calculated an amount that it would cost to repair that roof at about $33,000. and we negotiated an adjustment to the purchase price of that $38,000 as a credit towards us. $33,000.
I wonder how that changed. If you could get 38, better.
Did I say 38? 33.
You said it went from
33, and so I executed that contract amendment. We expect to close today or tomorrow on that purchase.
So we're going to reduce the amount we pay the seller so we can take that money and actually get the work done to satisfy us.
Yes, and my recommendation at this point is to not perform any immediate repairs on that. And we'll, depending on our inspector, it's probably going to be better to just let this roof live out its life, and then and maybe keep that money to replace it at the time it needs to be replaced.
It's dry.
That's all I have.
Good.
We'll
Okay,
be back at 2:30.
we'll recess till 2:30 and take up the budget.
I know we don't.
I'm sure you will. I'm looking forward to
We're
it.
counting on that.